We all experience it at some point in our lives. To a lucky few, it passes like a quick seasonal storm. To the unlucky, it becomes our internal climate. It defines who we are. When you suffer from loneliness, you quickly realize its characteristics that make the emotion so unique. One is that there's a difference between being lonely and alone, i.e., loneliness is not about whether or not you have company. It's about the type of company you have. It could also be the type of company you don't have, or in my case, the type of company I've never had. Sure, I've been on first dates. I even once had a second date. When I reveal to others that I've never been in a relationship, the response is always some form of shock. To them, romantic relationships are a fundamental part of daily life. If they're not in one, they have reasonable expectations of being in one because they've been in one in the past. In their worlds, it's just something that happens to everyone. That's just a matter of you meeting the right person, hitting it off, and then going on a number of dates before suddenly realizing that you have a person in your life who actually loves you based on a connection you both cultivated together. And this connection is so strong that this person looks at you and says without even having to utter a word, "You have enough value to be worthy of a label so special that I only give it to one person." To those shocked by my admission of an empty romantic past, the most common response I receive is, "But you're good looking. I don't get it." While I always appreciate compliments regarding my physical appearance, in a strange way, these compliments actually trigger an even deeper emotional isolation. This type of compliment has often planted the false sense of hope that a meaningful connection is plausible. That the only thing keeping me from access to the emotional and physical intimacy that makes life meaningful is simply going out into the world and connecting with others. I recall a perfect example from my days living on campus as a UC Berkeley student. Friends I stayed in the same housing unit with often told me that I just need to go out or attend more parties. Yet every time I did, I returned back to my dorm room even lonelier and more depressed than I did before wasting the previous 3 hours that I would never get back. And it's not just that I returned to the dorms. It's that I returned to dorms full of students who spent the entire year either hooking up or pairing up with each other in some form or another. If they didn't connect with someone physically or romantically, at the very least each of them made lifelong friends. I'm talking about the ones who became more than just eternal Facebook acquaintances. And trust me when I say, when you fall for people who live on your floor, watching them escape with their partners into their rooms or watching them escape into their partners' rooms is something that sticks with you. As a college student, it was a regular reminder that while most of us crave that type of connection, only a privileged majority get to experience it at least once in a lifetime. Because even then, I correctly assumed that things would not get easier after college. Armchair psychologists will claim that statement is a self-fulfilling prophecy, that it's a perfect example of the flawed yet common belief that things come into existence just because you think them. But in reality, your chances of forming meaningful connections significantly decrease when you don't have the benefit of a forced proximity that comes with a college experience. Adult life after college forces us to confront the reality that our human connections come only as part of the networks that we voluntarily join. The two most prominent networks being your job and your social media apps. So often we're forced to rely on social connections we made earlier in life. And for many of us, those connections simply don't exist if we even made them at all. Often after college, we find ourselves in new bustling cities trying to make it as young professionals. And for those of us in major cities, we're hit with a harsh reality that even though we're literally surrounded by millions of others, we're effectively more alone than ever. So when we crave that deeper connection, we often turn to dating apps. For the luckiest among us, this could actually lead to real meaningful relationships and sometimes even marriage. I mean, for me, well, I first signed up for dating apps in late 2015. It took over a year of matches and messages on OkCupid, Tinder, and Bumble to finally convince one woman to go on a date with me. Over 3 years later, and I've yet to convince any dating app connections to go on a second date. And the funny thing is, I'm still connected to more than one of them as friends. It's as if they're unintentionally saying, "Raymond, I see in you what the rest of the world sees. A friendly buddy old pal worthy of an Instagram follow or Facebook connection, but not someone I could bring home to mom or put on any kind of pedestal." One of the tricky things about online dating is that it convinces many people that someone better might just be another swipe away. So it's relatively easy for potential partners to just swat you aside before you ever become more than just a brief digital picture to them. It's also relatively easy for potential partners to swipe right on you and even exchange promising messages back and forth before swatting you aside the moment someone better than you swipes right on them. And one of the unfortunate realities of dating is that it is a competition whether or not we want to admit it. I've experienced my fair share of women I've fallen for throughout my life. Despite the glowing things they have to say about my physical appearance, they've all chosen other men. And while not all of them will win GQ awards or have the unremarkable modeling career I did, they were more compatible in other ways. These other ways include things like being the right race, right ethnicity, right religion, or having better jobs at the time. See, compatibility has little to do with how attractive you appear to prospective partners. Compatibility encompasses a large package that could be summed up in one oversimplified question: can that person bring you home to mom? At the end of my college days, I met the parents of a woman for which I felt we had a mutual attraction. She would later text me saying, "My mom thinks you're beautiful." The problem is this family comes from what I can describe as a very traditional culture, and I was a black guy with an art degree with no concrete career plans or business connections due to my, let's just say, humble upbringing. So if I was vetted as a potential dating prospect, I can understand why it would be easy for the parents to say, hold out for someone with an engineering degree and preferably someone who's insert our ethnicity. Needless to say, she soon ended up with someone else, and as far as I know, they're still happily together. She's someone I fell hard for, so that one is particularly painful. I could go on about compatibility being more than just attraction, but I'll steer this back toward a more sensible point. As someone suffering from chronic, seemingly incurable loneliness, I think about these stories every day. I think about the middle school and high school crushes I had no chance with because no one ever taught me how to talk to girls. And as a teen, everything I knew about dating came from the unrealistic and equally problematic depictions from pop culture. It turns out that persistence doesn't magically win over those who don't like you. I think about the college crushes I had no chance with because I still didn't know how to talk to women. And the few I made promising connections with either soon moved away or I soon moved away. I forgot to mention compatibility being about timing and logistics too. I think about the women who I found attractive but had no idea also liked me until it was way too late. Because just like no one taught me how to talk to women, no one taught me how to interpret their signals. And trust me when I say they only give you a small window to make a move, and if you don't make that move, they may never open that window for you again, no matter how attractive they think you are. I recently mentioned that I think about these stories every day. Living in the social media era forces me to confront them every time I log on. For each woman I fall for, I get to see her together with someone else. I get to see images of their vacations, their weekend getaways, their anniversaries, her parents gleefully interacting with her boyfriend, their proposals, their marriages, and their kids. I'm going to conclude that just because I put together this video to be released on Valentine's Day doesn't mean that loneliness is just a one-day thing. For many of us, it's every day. Loneliness is a way of life. Many of you clicked on the video because you have similar feelings and your own unique story. And even though others who aren't going through what you're going through may have air quote simple solutions for your issues, I'm here to tell you your feelings are valid. I'm here to tell you to remind them what loneliness is. It's the gap between the meaningful connections that you have and the meaningful connections that you want. Sometimes the most freeing feeling available is acknowledging that there is no easy solution.